And we are ready to go. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sam Moody. I'm the Associate Director of the Colorado Media Project. Thank you so much for joining us for the first of two information sessions this morning about our open call grants. This information session is
You want to let them
regarding
click a little bit and turn right before you flip them, okay?
And would you mind muting yourself if you're on Thank you so much. This is our Newsroom Sustainability Grant information session. There will be a separate information session regarding the closing coverage grant immediately after this at 11 a.m. Please stick around for that if you're interested in that as well. Before I dive into our slide deck, Kimberly, do you mind introducing yourself as well?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly Spencer. I am the director of the Colorado Media Project, and I'm so excited for this open call. This is a new fund that we are talking about today, really around sustainability. Many of you might know that my background is revenue, so this is near and dear to my heart. How do we create more revenue for newsrooms to be able to do the important work that you all are doing? So excited for this fund to be available. Excited to see kind of what projects are presented, and we'll turn it back over to Sam to kind of walk through kind of what the expectations are and kind of what we need from you all as you're going through this process. So thank you all for being here.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kimberly. All right, I'm going to share my screen and walk us through our info session deck. And share. And can I grab a thumbs up from somebody I can see on my screen if that's coming through for you all? Oh, thank you, Nicole. Thanks, Vicki. All right. So, as you said, I'm Sam Moody. Kimberly Spencer, our director, just introduced herself. This is the Colorado Media Project team. And we'll start with just a little overview of what the Colorado Media Project is for folks who might be new. Within Colorado's local media ecosystem, Colorado Media Project serves as a funder, catalyzer, and an advocate for local news. We are a pooled fund supported by a number of local and national foundations and housed and fiscally sponsored by the Rose Community Foundation. As a funder, we pool funds and offer strategic grants to support newsrooms and spur innovation, sustainability, equity, inclusion, and resilience in our local news ecosystem. As a catalyst, we support and connect and facilitate cross-sector conversations, collaborations, and peer-to-peer learning amongst Colorado's local newsrooms, the communities you serve, and the organizations that connect and serve you. And as an advocate, we commission research, share learning, and leverage our collective influence to bring more knowledge and resources and better public policies and practices to move into strengthen Colorado's local news ecosystem. Who do we fund as a funder? This is just a snapshot of last year. CMP has been funding local newsrooms in Colorado for 6 years. Last year, we made 72 direct grants totaling almost $1.4 million to 66 grantees across the state. These range from small family-owned newspapers and radio stations to statewide collaboratives and some of the largest newsrooms in the state. We are thrilled to have such a collaborative and connected community of newsrooms of all shapes and sizes working together to serve Colorado's communities. We're thrilled to be able to support you. How do we do that? How do we support you? Funding for the Media Project comes from a group of funders from across the state and a few generous national funders. Funding for this year's Newsroom Sustainability Grant comes from the Colorado Trust, the Rose Community Foundation, the Colorado Health Foundation, the Gates Family Foundation, Press Forward, and the Democracy Fund. Oh, and let me let Barry in. So today, we're going to dive into the goals, priorities, and application process for the Newsroom Sustainability Grant. We'll talk through grant objectives, the application timeline, eligibility requirements, who may apply, what CMP's goals and selection priorities are, and details about the application process. That should take us about 15-20 minutes to talk through. We'll reserve some generous time for all of you to ask your questions. So I'll say, as I'm moving through this next little bit of the presentation, Please enter any questions you have about anything I'm saying or that you're thinking about with regards to this grant into the chat. We'll start the Q&A with those. It's nice to be able to dive right into what you were thinking about. And then we'll also have time for anyone else to verbalize any questions they have as well. So please start entering those questions as soon as you have them. So what are the objectives of our Newsroom Sustainability Grant? We aim to support projects to strengthen Newsroom financial, staffing, and operational sustainability in Colorado. CMP will provide project-specific funding for sustainability initiatives, including revenue-generating initiatives, revenue-generating staff roles, and cost and time-saving initiatives, including technology platform investments and shared services. CMP is going to prioritize proposals for projects that expect to generate sufficient revenue and/or cost savings to increase your overall operational sustainability. In other words, we're looking to support projects that aim to, over the medium to long term, pay for themselves and generate more sustainability for your organization. We're going to prioritize projects or proposals that demonstrate how the initial 1-year project funded by this grant is integrated into your organization's broader plans for long-term sustainability beyond grant funding. We know that philanthropic support is not sufficient alone to support newsrooms. So we want to be able to understand how this philanthropic investment in your newsroom sustainability plans tie into your other revenue plans, your other cost-saving plans, and your long-term vision for your organization's sustainability. What is the timeline for the application? So this application opened in late May. Today's June 13th. We're having this information session. The deadline to submit your application, this is the most important date, is 5 p.m., not midnight, 5 p.m. on June 30th, which is a Monday. CMP will then review applications with our review board of funder, community, and industry representatives. Those grant decision notifications will be sent out to applicants that first week in August 6th. Once you receive that, you'll have about a week to that notification, if you're approved, will come along with a grant contract from the Rose Community Foundation. You'll have a week to sign and return those contracts to initiate your grant with a note for fiscal sponsorship for for-profit newsrooms that I'll talk about in a minute. All of this with the objective of announcing publicly the grantee cohort for this grant by August 14th at CMP's local news summit, which will be hosted in collaboration with the Colorado Press Association's annual convention. These grants will run from August 2025 through July 2026. So that's a year-long grant. Funds from this grant must be expended by July 31st, 2026, and a final report will be due to Colorado Media Project in late August of 2026. Eligibility, who may apply? Applicants for this grant must meet all of these following requirements. You have to have been in operation since January 2023, roughly 2 years. You have to demonstrate a commitment to editorial excellence, editorial independence, and transparency. You have to be located in Colorado or primarily serving Colorado communities. So newsrooms that do serve communities outside of Colorado are eligible as long as they primarily serve Colorado's communities. And this is an important one. You must have completed the 2025 Colorado News Survey, which is administered by the Colorado News Collaborative, or CoLab. If you're not sure if your newsroom has completed this year's survey, please contact Allison Cooper. Her email is listed here for more information. She can provide you with a customized link to your organization's profile within this survey. So if you've completed the survey in previous years, you don't have to fill it out from scratch. You just have to update any new information from this year. Applicants may be nonprofit 501c3 newsrooms and organizations. They may be university or college student newsrooms producing original reporting that is community facing, i.e. not just serving a university or student body. And they may be for-profit newsrooms and organizations. However, For-profit newsrooms applying for this grant must have a 501c3 fiscal sponsor. The good news is it's very easy to secure a fiscal sponsorship because the Colorado News Collaborative offers them. If you are a for-profit newsroom intending to apply for this grant, please reach out to Allison Cooper at CoLab to request a fiscal sponsorship from CoLab. CMP is making this shift because in a world of growing philanthropic support for local newsrooms, for-profit newsrooms are increasingly eligible for that kind of funding if they have a fiscal sponsor. And at this point in the industry, it is just an absolute best practice for you to have one. And here in Colorado, it is very accessible through our friends at CoLab. So this is our incentive for you to pay attention to that trend in the industry. A few additional details about the Newsroom Sustainability Grant. CMP highly encourages collaborative applications. Cost savings and revenue generation for newsrooms, especially smaller newsrooms, are often best achieved by collaborating and sharing a staff person or a technology platform investment with other newsrooms, especially ones that you're already interacting and collaborating with. It is important to note, though, that for this grant, you have to choose whether you're submitting a collaborative application or an application on your own. CMP will accept one application per involved newsroom, collaboration or individual. So please do not submit an individual application and then sign on to a collaborative application, or agree to participate in a collaborative application and then also submit your own individual one. We will be confused as to which one your newsroom is really prioritizing this year. And so that's why, and we'll call you and say, hey, you need to pick one of these. You don't get to submit both. So save yourself the trouble, make your decision ahead of time, and don't write two applications. The last note is about the Colorado Press Association's convention in middle of August. Please hold the dates, August 14th through 16th. All of our grantees will receive special invitations to that, and CMP will provide travel support for folks coming from out of town. And regardless of whether you are approved for this grant, we highly recommend that you hold those dates and plan on attending. We're working with the Press Association to help recruit speakers and plan that agenda, and it is developing into a tremendously exciting and valuable set of workshops and opportunities for newsrooms to connect with each other. So put that on your calendars. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about this is sort of getting under the hood to think about CMP's selection priorities as our review team is going to be reviewing your applications. So these are questions you want to be able to think about answering as you're drafting your applications. We're going to look at the quality of the project plan. We're looking for proposals that show that the sustainability initiative that you're proposing has clear objectives, a realistic time frame. This is a one-year grant, and a strong buy-in from your organization's leadership and any partners who might be involved. We want to see initiatives that are properly scaled to your organization's capacity and size, and that are well integrated into your other organizational activities and plans. If your proposal is around a revenue generating initiative, we want to see how that's tied into your audience engagement and listening activities. We want to see how that's tied into your product development plans for the next year. These are all parts of a newsroom that work best when they are thought about together. And so we created opportunities in the application for you to explain how those things work together. Second, we're going to look at the impact that the proposed initiative could have on your organizational sustainability. We're looking for projects that are expected to have a long-term and strong impact on your financial and or organizational sustainability. And here an important thing is we recognize that newsroom sustainability is both about your budget and dollars in and dollars out. It's also about the humans who make up the organization. It's about your sustainability as employees and leaders, your burnout, your capacity. We're looking for proposals that address all parts of that organizational sustainability. we're going to look for applications from organizations that are a really good fit for this organization or for this opportunity. And again, that comes down to you serve Colorado news communities. You have a strong relationship with the communities that you serve, and that you play an important role in the state's or your smaller region's local news ecosystem. And finally, we are looking at proposals that are, like I said, collaborative. We know that like sustainability projects often have the strongest impact when they can impact multiple newsrooms, or if there's a project that an individual newsroom is focusing internally on, where there's an opportunity to share learning or perhaps replicate that for other organizations. What I will flag here is a collaborative proposal is not automatic bonus points. A collaborative proposal will receive extra scrutiny on the quality of the collaboration and how well set up it is. So this is me saying, I don't encourage you to take a proposal that is really focused on your newsroom, because that's what you're going to prioritize this year, and say, and we're going to do it with somebody else without clearly thinking through how that partnership works, having an MOU in place. Like, please do not feel pressured into pursuing a collaborative proposal if it doesn't feel right for you and you don't feel really ready to do that well. So what does the application process look like? For those who have applied for CMP grants before, there is not much new here. For those who haven't, I'll walk you through it. Rose Community Foundation is our fiscal sponsor. And so you'll want to log into the Rose Community Foundation grants portal. If you don't have an account, you'll need to create one. If you've applied for any grants for them before, you can log in with your existing account. The application link and login link is right here. Once you log in, it will give you access to a couple of options. This is what the login page looks like. You log in and then it gives you the list of available grants. You'll see here there are 2 from the Colorado Media Project. You'll want to select the Newsroom Sustainability grant when you log in. There will be a little apply button right down here next to preview. And then you complete the application via the portal. This year, we are providing a Word document with the text of all the questions. So even if you don't have an account yet, or if you prefer to work on your application draft offline, you can download the text of the application questions from the completing this application section of the grant in the Rose portal, or by clicking this link on this slide deck, which I will circulate later. So like some folks find it very, find it preferable to work in Word or Google Documents as you're drafting your responses. And then here's the most important point: copy and paste them into the Rose Community Foundation portal and submit them. Please do not email me your Word document with all your answers in it. That won't count as an application. You have to submit it through the grant application portal. And whoops, sorry, let me jump back into my deck. And here's where I'm going to stop throwing a lot of information at you and close my screen share, bring my face back, and open it up for questions.
I noticed we have a couple of questions already in the chat. So I wanted to go ahead and answer Peter's question around, is it acceptable to have a project that is solely focused on advertising and marketing services, or will the project need to be tied more directly to editorial content? Does not necessarily need to be tied to editorial content at all. Would love to have you think through, how does it impact editorial? Are there things that can, is there natural connections there? But we don't need it to have an editorial focus. And this is specifically to address kind of the business side of your newsroom. So what are those things? I would say for marketing, if you are going to go in the direction of marketing, be able to really tie that back to an ROI that would show additional revenue, not just say an awareness campaign or something like that. Probably would not be very competitive. But if you were doing something that a campaign that would eventually yield revenue, yes, that is what we're looking for. Yeah. and Sam, do you want to, let's see the next.
On the just the follow-up question, yes, I will be the recording of this information session along with the slide deck and all relevant links will be posted to CMP's website on the grant opportunity page, as well as emailed to all participants here today. So yeah, don't worry about copying, pasting links right now. We'll put that in your inbox.
And Sam, Vicky, your question is around how many grants and how much. The range is between 30 and 50,000. And we are doing, how many are we doing, Sam?
We expect to make 5 or 6 grants based on current funding allocations for this opportunity.
And I will say for those that have received CMP funding in the past, what we are trying to do, and this will be a process, we are trying to right-size grants to organizational budget size. So what we actually are not going to do is as many small dollar amounts, because we don't know that that is having the impact that we want it to have. So our goal over the next couple of years is to be able to do more substantial grants, probably fewer, and then our pie in the sky dream, and this really comes down to us finding the funding, is multiple year funding so that you all don't have to come back year after year and do the same grant application. But for us, what that really means is we have to have funders that are able to give us and commit to multi-year funding to us so that we can make that commitment to you. Because what we can't do is make a commitment for 3 years worth of funding without having that guaranteed. We wouldn't want to do that because we know that you all put that into your budget and you count on that. So we want to make sure that we are able to, manage expectations. But that is where the executive committee and staff really want us to get to: larger grants, multi-year.
Let's see. I saw a question from Jamie about subscription revenue campaigns. Yeah, we are agnostic as to the no restriction of the kind of sustainability initiative. We are really looking to support. What we know is that there is no one silver bullet fits all newsrooms solution to revenue and operational sustainability. Whatever you believe is going to work best for your newsroom and your communities that you serve, and that is, integrated, whatever initiative you have that is integrated into addresses those two things will be eligible. Size of newsroom and organizational budget. No, for this grant, there is no limit on organizational size or budget. Although, with our effort to right size our grants, we are trying to make grants of a size that will have a significant impact on the organization we are making the grant to. And similarly, we're looking to fund sustainability initiatives that will have a significant impact relative to the size and capacity of the newsroom. Oh, and Dali, great question about evaluation of your we ask you to describe in the application your relationship with the communities you serve and provide examples of how you go about listening and feedback and engagement with those specific audiences. And we're also at a point, having done this for 6 years, where we're quite familiar with most of the newsrooms in Colorado and who they serve and what the community's relationship with them is.
I think one way to think of this also is more competitive applications. And the way that I think of it in my mind is they're writing for the communities that they are serving and not writing about the communities. And I think that's a distinguish that there's clear kind of the way that news is generated. So I think that makes an application a little more competitive. And that's how we're kind of thinking of it internally.
All right. Any other questions that we missed in the chat or that anyone wants to just unmute and shout out for the group?
Is there a way for, you to facilitate the fiscal sponsorship role? For instance, Rocky Mountain Student Media, we'd be open to a project idea with a for-profit paper in Colorado and being able to connect students and producing content for their paper. Should I just put it out there to everyone that we would be open to, because we are a 501c3, we're an independent nonprofit corporation from CSU. Just wondering how some of those connections might be able to be made.
That's a great question. Yeah, to clarify, for a collaborative, for applications for collaborations amongst newsrooms or organizations, you'll need to pick one lead applicant. And if that lead applicant is a nonprofit organization, a 501c3, that covers the participants. If that lead applicant is a for-profit newsroom, they'll need to get a fiscal sponsor. So if you are thinking about a collaborative organization application, that may inform your decision on who decides to be the lead applicant. I will say, like fiscal sponsorship for profit newsrooms in Colorado is very accessible. You can set it up in less than a week. With Collab, their fees are at an absolute low in the industry. And this is a thing that if you're a for-profit newsroom who has a philanthropic strategy, if you're applying for grants, you should have a fiscal sponsorship. It's just gonna be the right thing to do long term. And so we're thrilled that Collab is set up to offer that quickly and efficiently and affordably to newsrooms.
And the one thing I'll add about the fiscal sponsorship, if you were to get it for this application, it also will help through your year-end fundraising campaign. If you are choosing to do that, that opens up some opportunities there as well. So it is something that you can sign up for and you use it as you need it. It's not something that you're going to continually pay fees on, anything like that. It really is kind of a pass-through ability to help you generate revenue from philanthropic sources that you might not have the opportunity to do.
Good morning.
Great question about hiring. Yeah. Brent, to your question about an application that says we're going to hire development staff and they're going to do development. What would be missing from that application is the development plan and the context around it, how it integrates into what else you're doing. And also to start that with, a good development plan starts with your ability to articulate what your community's information needs are, what you're doing to solve them, and like who and how you want to go about fundraising for that. So yes, having those plans in place, or at least some sense of what they would look like, would make that sort of application stronger. I would also say that being able to explain how the sort of philanthropic development role plan is tied into and balanced against your other planned revenue sources and sustainability, plans would also be helpful.
I think also just making sure that it's realistic. So if you have never hired a development director, I think people that hire their first person think they're going to go out and raise hundreds of thousands of dollars in your first year. A good rule of thumb is your new development director is probably your expectation of them is to raise their salary in year one, because they need to build relationships. They need to build a pipeline. So that's not to say that hiring a development director isn't a good project. I would just say make sure that your application is realistic on what you expect them to do and kind of how that will grow beyond year one. So kind of thinking this is just the starting point. And the hope is to get someone in, get them onboarded, trained, allow them to build a pipeline, make sure that they have the support. And then where you're really going to see that benefit back is year 2, year 3, and beyond.
And I'll say broadly, for any kind of revenue generating initiative, this is a 1-year grant, but being able to explain just what your plan is, how you're thinking about this being the start of whatever comes in year two is going to be really important. Again, this is forecasting, this is planning, but having some sense of what we hope to achieve in year one will help us do X, Y, and Z in year two, especially if you're including, if your project includes hiring a staff person, like at least explaining that you understand what your revenue goals would be to hit to enable you to continue to keep that person on your staff after this grant ends.
Good morning. How about the membership drives on the air and for hiring like someone who coordinate? I'm sorry, I got that through my radio.
Fine.
I was on some outside screaming, so sorry about my voice. But um, how about other stuff because we do have like multilingual communities, so sometimes to fundraise online we have to hire translators because we serve almost 6 speaking languages of that on the air. So how can we, because most of the professionals are mostly you hire they're almost 95% of the English speaking. It's very difficult to find someone who will be able to kind of to accommodate all 6 of them. We cannot afford to have 6 people. So how do you think that would be helpful in terms of to at least to gap? I know the 3 languages that we serve are the majority, and the other 3, they're very minority, but still they need to be served. So how that will be, it's just an idea for us to help us.
I feel like there's 2 parts to this question. One is like a proposal focused on small donor contributions, fundraising via membership drives, or any version of the News Colorado Needs campaign that we've run each year is absolutely eligible. And Dahlia, it might be worth talking through. Maybe we can follow up offline about exactly what you're asking around translation. I think I get caught up on the question of it's hard for me to like, if you're serving a language group, I sort of assume that you're able to communicate with them. And if you're struggling to communicate with them, they're it's I struggle to imagine how that group is going to be a great source of fundraising until you're first serving their information needs, if that makes sense. But we can talk more about that offline, I think.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, I was just struggling. The translation is getting more challenging these days. So there's a lot of resource going to some other legal needs. So I'm just kind of to stress that to you, and then that's the main thing.
I would say if more broadly you are encountering challenges around translation and just sort of meeting the information needs of sort of language groups that are not well served by the media, that would be a much better fit for the Closing Coverage Gaps grant, which is focused on exactly that sort of thing, which is meeting the information needs of communities that are underserved, rather than an application to this sort of sustainability and revenue focused grant.
Gotcha.
There's a question from Barry around reporting and what outcomes or metrics are most valuable. I think it really depends on what the project is. I would love to see like really thought out KPIs. What does that look like? Kind of how are you measuring success? So I think that will really depend on kind of what the project is that's presented and just making sure. I think it's less about what specific metrics and more about do the metrics match the project that you're submitting?
Great question, Brent. On examples of project ideas or other things that we've seen newsrooms in Colorado or elsewhere in the country do that have worked really well. I'll say, on the collaborative side, I'll point to groups of newsrooms that have hired a shared ad salesperson and created a shared ad sales network. Thinking, like the Colorado Ethnic Media Exchange as an example. Sort of more generally speaking, newsrooms that can identify a shared technology service platform need and figure out how to sort of buy it in bulk together and share the cost of that service and deliver it to multiple newsrooms is another example. More broadly speaking, for individual newsrooms, investments in, again, we see sustainability as a, at the organizational level as a combination of revenue and cost and staff time and energy. So, an investment in a technology platform or a staff role that will free up capacity and balance workload amongst your team would be eligible, in the context of where you can explain how the time and energy that is being freed up will help your organization generate, attend to those other legs of the sustainability stool, cut costs, increase revenue.
And I will say kind of my vision for this is I'm just really excited to see what you all come up with, because this is something new that we're doing. This is something where I think we need to head around thinking about sustainability long term. And I'm excited to see kind of creatively what you all come up with on ways to, I don't work in your newsroom, so not kind of knowing it from that, we are looking to you all to say, hey, these are ideas that we have, in hopes that, some of these projects that we fund, they're things that maybe we can replicate or scale, whatever that might look like. So while we can give you ideas of what has worked, I think Colorado is very unique, and we have a lot of smart people in the room doing really good work. And I'm sure you all, as you go about your day, you're like, oh, this would make my life so much easier. We could do so much more if we had an investment to do this. And so that's really what we're looking for. Other questions?
I have a question. This Todd. Hey, one thing I'm concerned about moving forward is retaining employees, especially with potential healthcare increases here in the mountain region next year. Can we do some grant applications around retaining employees long term?
For this grant, I would say if it was a development or revenue seeking role, yes. In terms of kind of keeping editorial staff, probably not for this grant round. But I think you bring up a good point, Todd. And when we think about retention, also making sure that what is one of the things that I think would make an application strong, if you are hiring a staff person, and maybe Sam, you already said this, what's the retention plan? So really making sure that you're thinking through. Some organizations that I've worked with have said, we can't bring on a new staff person, a full-time staff role without 2 or 3 years of runway to make sure that we can make sure that we're not laying them off in a year. So just kind of thinking through, what does that look like? Kind of beyond, we're hoping that we can come back and you all can apply to renew next year, and we'd be able to keep the funding. But given where we are, just it's a very questionable fundraising landscape right now. So I don't think we will really know kind of what the impact of what is going on federally and how that's going to impact funding in our state, probably for a couple more months.
Sorry, Sam, there's a housekeeping question. Just sorry, since I'm just understanding, is this recording will be available so I can get assistance with my translate so I can get evaluated later on?
Yes, absolutely. We'll share both the slide deck and this recording of the questions. Kate made a question about a podcast launched by a climate justice organization. Yeah, we have made grants to non-traditional newsrooms that do produce news. That's where, it would come back to those questions of, does your there is a difference between a podcast and a news podcast, in that, news podcast is produced with a commitment to editorial excellence, editorial independence, and transparency. So, those are the questions and the criteria that would be brought to bear against a non-traditional newsroom making such an application. And again, it would really come down to your relationship with the communities you serve and your role in Colorado's local news ecosystem.
Thank
And-
you.
Yeah, and just for this proposal, you have to have been producing content for a year. So if you are brand new and just launching, you probably would not qualify for this round, but that doesn't mean that you wouldn't qualify for subsequent rounds going forward.
Great point. And it's 2 years on this. It's since
Yeah.
January 1, 2023.
Okay, great. And I know that there's another call at 11 a.m. Would we qualify for that one? Or would we still have to be already producing for a year?
There is a similar maturity requirement for that grant as well. Yes.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Let's see. Sean, planned giving efforts and other long-term but more revenue-generating fundraising be. Along like investments in long-term fundraising capital, large or small scale donor fundraising base would absolutely be eligible. Yes.
Greg, I see you have had your hand up for a moment, so I wanted to get to your question.
Thank you. And it relates to Todd's question. Because a major part of the expense of any given focused news desk is the reporter's salary, we're very likely gonna apply on the project of our established either climate desk, and I'm with Aspen Public Radio, climate desk, women's desk, social justice desk, or arts and culture desk, which have had a pretty high rate of success in private funding to get them kicked off and funded for a year, year and a half. And now the reporting is going as such that it's a great case to make to future funding. So anyway, I kind of want to make sure, related to Todd's question, these are established projects, of which have other expenses like technology and editing and so on and so forth. But a major chunk of that expense is the employment of the excellent reporter that's anchoring that desk. So I guess I'm trying to get a temperature on, would this be a good application?
Let me just make sure. So what you're asking for, what would your project actually support? Would it be for the reporting is what you're suggesting?
It would be for all four of these desks that I mentioned, and we'll probably pick one, are focused on those full time.
Mm-hmm.
And the desk concept itself has many other expenses besides the reporter.
Right.
But in the spirit of this, the bullet points on what you're targeting on this, we're going to be able to show a strong track record of sustaining these desks, including our arts and culture desk that's sustained for 10 years. And the main point of this is there's already some excellent reporting coming out of these desks being broadcast and internet transmitted to multiple communities on the Western Slope. And we want to continue to fundraise, including grants, to sustain the success of these desks.
So yes, I think if what I'm hearing is incorrect, correct me. So what I'm hearing is your project would be to continue to support the continued fundraising to support these existing projects.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be something new. We don't want you to go out and create something new to fundraise for. This is exactly what we want. We want you to take this investment and leverage it so that you can say in 5 years, you've grown whatever this project is to have ongoing support. So really, how do you leverage this investment to grow more money?
Exactly.
I think that fits squarely into what we're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I'm asking this question just on the tail of Todd Chamberlain's question. that of course, a major expense of any given one of these focused news desks is the reporter's salary. And I'm hoping that in your
That's
answer to
where
Todd.
yeah. So that's where I do actually want to be clear on this.
Yeah.
We love and deeply understand the cost of editorial work in a newsroom. And there are CMP is committed to supporting newsrooms in that through other grants. This grant is really focused on the revenue generation and things that will change your organization's sustainability. So a proposal that is going to be about where the things in your budget in the proposal are the things that are specifically the fundraising off of the excellent editorial project, strong application. A budget that says, I need to pay for this reporter so that they can do reporting so that then later I can fundraise off it. That's not going to be a focus that's going to be very competitive for this grant.
Okay, so to just confirm on that, I think that this will work, and we've got the data to back it up. In late 2024 and into early 2025, the women's desk pretty much within a month generated 6 individual donors at $25,000 apiece.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that you all see that by following through with excellent reporting from these desks, it will continue to sustain private donations in a similar way.
Well, and yeah, I really appreciate you asking this question because it's an important thing to clarify for everyone considering applying and thinking about this is those individual $25,000 plus donations that came in response to the excellent reporting of I believe it was the women's desk. They didn't walk in on their own. Your newsroom allocates resources and human capacity and effort to that fundraising. That is the realm of activity that this grant is designed to support. Those people are doing this based on the editorial side of your newsroom's activity. But I do want to be incredibly clear, without investments in that fundraising activity, those donations don't come in, regardless of the quality of the reporting. So for everyone, I just want to be very clear that this grant is not designed to help us report our way out of a financial challenge. This grant is designed to help us fundraise, cost cut, and revenue generate our way towards financial sustainability.
Yeah.
I hope that's clear.
Thank you.
And I think broadly the answer is proposals with budget allocations towards editorial roles are not going to be as strong as proposals with budget allocations towards revenue generating, cost saving roles.
Yeah. And really, my thought process behind even suggesting this fund is that given where we are, and this isn't unique to this year, but this has been happening for a while, but really thinking through, should funders say, and we know funders have a tendency to say, hey, we are going in a different direction priority-wise. So while we could fund editorial projects now, if funding was to get pulled, where would that funding come from? So really starting, how do we start to really grow a good, robust ecosystem that can support the players within it, and really doing these investments to do that so that we are not as dependent on institutional funders and really can start to build out other revenue streams that can work in conjunction with funding that we might get from funders.
Yep. Well said. All right. Any last questions? Let me just glance back at the chat. And yes, Michael, that is, I think, an excellent way to think about it. Your internal budget allocations are an important part of how that's the sort of broader context of your organization's approach to sustainability. And your proposal to this grant should focus, and the budget you include with it should focus on investments in not the editorial work that organizational sustainability supports, but the organizational sustainability itself. All right. I think we have time for one last question if there is one, and then I do have to prepare for our next information session, which I'm sure some of you will be joining. Any last questions? Well, thank you all so much for joining us. You can always reach out to Kimberly and myself with follow-up questions as you're working through your applications. Again, that deadline is 5 p.m. Monday, June 30th. And we very much look forward to hearing what you're working on and what you're proposing.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Have a great weekend.